All right, it is 8:30. I'll go ahead and get started. My name is Ashton Bailey. I am with CGIA, and one of our products that CGI creates is the Address NC statewide address points dataset. And this morning I will be going over Address NC status and reports and Experience Builder mapping spree. So with Address NC, not only do you have the statewide address point data set, but we also produce inconsistency reports as well as other reporting. Those are hosted as REST services as well as on AGOL. There's download options on NC1 Map. We also create a Address NC locator for geocoding. So one problem that we are trying to solve when we want to work with the counties on addressing is how can we create an impactful application where we can display all of these different maps and all of the different data kind of as one-stop shop without it being super cumbersome, as well as being able to have it report for individual counties of the 100 counties. So we've been testing Experience Builder, and I call it a mapping spree because there's just maps and maps and maps and maps. So I'm going to go over the Experience Builder itself, widgets, the settings that were created, and how we're using different features to help us pack all of this information into one application. So with the Address NC data points, I did want to mention that those are sourced from NextGen 911, which is sourced from the authoritative counties. So we take the NextGen data and look at that to create these different reports. Tomorrow morning, Darren Smith, our Address NC program manager, will be going over the program itself as well as the specific content in here, what these maps mean. So if you are interested in that, please join him tomorrow morning. Like I mentioned, I will go over specific widgets, the content of the experience, and at the end, I just have a couple things that I'm excited to start implementing from the 2020 or February release of Experience Builder. So this is the Address NC experience. This is the home page. Here we have pages. There's a home, status, and reports page, and then we have interactive widgets here, and then buttons for technical documentation and resources. So I'm going to try to play videos, and I might have to fast forward them or skip over some pieces because technical difficulties. So when you first open the experience, there's a disclaimer window that is populated. You exit out of that, and then you have these pages across the top, home, status, and reports, the buttons, the interactive widgets below. So when you interact with the map, if you make a county selection, the data below, the dynamic text, the bar charts, and the tables all interact, and so it filters on that specific county. So here's an example of that. This is our status page. There is a views navigation and sections widget that we use. This is different from the home page, but these are used for the status and reports pages. That views navigation window is that bar across the top with the different tabs, and the section is all of the content underneath that houses widgets within the section widget. We include these other widgets as well. So when you browse to the status page, all of these tabs are clickable. There's interaction between the maps and the charts, the data filters. Those are called actions and triggers. And I'll just show a couple of these first views navigation tabs. One thing that I've learned as far as layout goes, to use the grid widget, it kind of lets you dock widgets and equally space them to where, you know, if you don't use the grid widget or a column or row widget, things can sort of overlap or become cumbersome when you go to like a full page view or whatnot. So I highly recommend the grid widget just for layout and ease of use there. So that was a table action where you select something from the table and it zooms to that on the map. On the right hand side here, there's an accordion widget. We use that in several places. There's a button on the bottom right hand side as well that opens up a window for what are all of these layers in this map and what do they mean. And lastly, this is the reports page. So again, we have views navigation sections. We have the layout set up very similarly between all of these views navigation tabs. We use accordions here as well. And then these widgets. So when you browse here, you can see, you can cram a lot of information in that views navigation. I think there's, I want to say 14 or 15 different sections that are applied to just the reports page itself. And so there's interactivity between these pages as well. The selection of the pie graphs filters not only the map, but also the table. You can search for a specific county in the table search bar, and it will filter. We apply arcade pop-ups for plain text reading and have a customized table in there as well. So those are the reports pages of the experience. Now I'm going to go into more of the specific details of widget settings and how things interact. So being that we feel like we have so much data and we want to put it all in one place, we needed to have different ways to group content. And so we've done that in two ways for this experience. The first being the pages. And so those are set up on the page window on the left-hand side. You can set up multiple pages. You can also just have one page. And we've applied a header to the experience. And in that header, we have a menu widget, which allows for these home, status, and reports buttons. When you set up pages, you can set up a home page as a default, and so that's what we've done here. And there's a option with that little house icon that you can toggle on and off for your home page. And then I always highly recommend the body or the content that you see on the left-hand menu. You always customize that. And so when you add widgets into your experience, they are default named text 1, text 2, chart 1, chart 2. And so that not only makes it confusing when you continue editing or if someone is maintaining your experience in the future, it just lets you be able to find things more quickly, and it also translates in some places to the experience itself, so you won't see text box 1. If you hover over your text box, it'll be whatever you named it that's more specific. And so outside of the pages to categorize our information, we use the views navigation, like I mentioned before. This allows you to have multiple sections and consolidate space so that you can have several pieces of information all on one page. Like I mentioned before, the section is this entire widget below, which has the different map, legend, table, and accordion widgets applied to that. So those are different content spaces that you can add within the section. One way that we were able to implement so that counties, if they come in here and they're just interested in their county, they don't want to see the 99 other counties, they can filter the data just to their county, and it will apply that to all of the reports pages in the experience. So when a user comes in and selects a county from this map, it applies that filter to everything in the reports pages. Likewise, the scale of the map will also be retained for all of the report pages. So if you select a county, zoom to it, when you go over to the inconsistency reports, you'll find you're zoomed into right where you want to see, and you don't have to look at the 99 other counties. The actions are what we use to set up that functionality and interconnectivity. The record selection changes. If you use a framework data set, you can apply a filter. So if you have a selection made, it will filter all of those data. So the 18 inconsistency maps are filtered using that piece of the action. And then the extent changes I have set for it to say, when this map has this extent, all of the other maps on the reports page have that same extent. So here's a demo of that interconnectivity. If you go select Wake County, not only does the dynamic content on the home page filter, but when you go over to the reports pages, the maps, charts, tables are also filtered. So you'll see that here. And as long as you have it applied for each one of your maps, you'll be set. If there's no content, so if Wake County does not have inconsistencies for that specific page, the content is just blank, and you can move on. If you go back to the home page and zoom to that specific county, and then go back to your reports page, you'll notice that the zoom is applied to all of the tabs here. A good way to save space is using the accordions widget. This is new as of, I think, fall last year. I'm a big fan. You can cram a lot of content in a small space, but still have it be viewable, or collapse it if it's not necessary at the moment. So the accordion is a widget in itself, and you apply other widgets to it. Here, these are charts. You can apply anything else. It's just stacked widgets that you can expand and collapse, but I'm a big fan of those. Here are just a couple of places in our experience that we use those. So everything is collapsed. There's options to where you can expand all or collapse all if you so choose. You can have it restricted to where only one accordion widget is opened at a time, or you can have multiple. We use it on this new and updated address page as well. There's the button for help information on this page because there's many map layers. It opens a window. There's an accordion attached inside that window, and there's help content there. So speaking of windows and buttons, when you first open the experience, you saw that there's the disclaimer window. There's different options for that, but we've applied that. There's also the window for the button, for the help content. On the home page, there are the technical documentations that open up a separate PDF link, or it takes you to browse to NC1 map or related information. And then we have this on another page as well. For Windows, on the left-hand side next to the page button, that's where you can add windows. There's two types of windows, fixed windows and anchored windows. You can choose a template that Experience Builder creates, or you can use just a blank screen and create your own. You can add whatever widgets you want inside that window, so it comes in handy just to hide content and only allow it to be viewable when you want to. To set it as a splash screen like we have on the home page, there's a little icon here where you can allow for that. Buttons are super helpful to have the content that only needs viewed when it needs viewed. You can have it open a page, open a view, a window, a URL, or a print preview. some map options that I regularly use. So with the February update, they came out with this scale range option for maps. I really like it because I found if I'm browsing through my experience and I accidentally zoom all the way out to the world scale on my map, that's frustrating. I don't want to have to hit the home button all the time. So now you can set it to where a user can't do that. It's restricted. So here I have it set to states, and you can't zoom out any further than this. It's kind of hard to see, but when you're not able to zoom out, the icon is white. When you are, they're gray. Also, docking pop-ups can be helpful. When you select something on your map that you have a pop-up applied to, it can sometimes cover what you've selected or pop up sort of off the screen. So if you dock it, you know where it's going to pop up every time, and it's more reliable. Table options. If you have data that has many, many attributes and you only want the user to be able to see 3 attributes, you can come in and configure fields to customize what a user sees. So if I don't want everyone to see my object ID, that just takes up space, I can turn that off, or whatever other fields. You can also, in a different area of this menu, set it so that a user can toggle them on or off if they so choose, but have them default set to be off. Something else that we've applied for all of these tables in this experience is the search. So you can have it search for one field or multiple fields. We use it to search for county fields. Something else is the select records and show record count. Those can be really helpful, especially if you have interactivity where you can click something, you can know what is selected or how many are selected and how many records are in your table to begin with. Data actions, if you would like export options, you can toggle this enable data action, as well as set up these other data pieces. For map layers, I really like this feature. We use this a little bit in this experience, but if you're familiar with the NCORE application or Environmental Justice Hub application, we use those with the views navigation to have one map with many, many layers, but you don't have to scroll and scroll and scroll. You can select what you want to be in a specific map layer widget. So if you come in and specify which layers will be displayed for each map, say I have a map and I will always want the counties to be displayed and I don't want there to be an option for someone to turn them off. I can come in here and unselect this county and it shows up in your legend, but it's not going to show up as a toggle on and off. Other features for the map layer widget that I find really useful. If you like tick boxes, you can use this tick box to control layer visibility. Otherwise, it's an eyeball. You can also dually use the map layers widget as a legend. So if you turn this show legend toggle button on and show legend for all visible layers, then you'll have your map layers and your legend all in one space. You don't have to have 2 widgets taking up space. If you would like to add search options for your map, you can include a locator. Esri's locator can be used, or we have the address and C locator. So we applied that, and then you can also choose map layers to search for. So if you have map layers that you want searchable, you can add them. You can add multiple sources. One thing that I would suggest, if you find yourself, when you're using it, having to click too many times, if you use this auto select the first result, it kind of selects that first time and you don't have to click as much. Similarly, if you have a locator widget, or not search widget utilizing a locator, you can set up create records in the action for that. So if you are searching for an address, but you don't have addresses on your map, you don't have those points in there, it will create a point of where you've searched for that specific address. Otherwise, the center of your map with no point is the result. We do utilize arcade pop-ups. I highly recommend that just for functionality and ease of use for users. They can be cumbersome, but I think it is worth it to apply those just for user functionality. And lastly, 3 things that I'm looking forward to implementing from the February 2025 updates. Data sources. So when you add data to your experience, you can set up views to where if you want to filter your data in one piece of your application and have it filtered to something else, you can set up those views. Now they have it to where if you're switching views, your settings aren't lost, they're retained. So I'm really excited about that. In the data panel, there's an export option to let you choose which layers are exportable and their export format. And then there's a new container called a flow row. It's similar to just a regular row, but a little bit different functionality. And that is it for me. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes.
I saw something about a tab with the word floater. What does that mean? There's something about the inconsistencies and conflicts, and there was a tab that said floater. What is that?
So floaters are where addresses are located outside of a parcel. And so that's just an inconsistency that is reported in the address NC data sets, as maybe you want to take a look at this if you're an authoritative source of that. Yes.
I have a couple questions, but I'll try to keep it brief. So you showed something about you can set zoom extents on maps. When did that come into play? Because that was
February.
Just February.
Yes. And it's amazing.
Yeah, because that was so silly that we couldn't do that.
Yes.
From web app builder. The other thing, as part comment for a question, one thing I really appreciate about Experience Builder is that you can design like natively for different screen sizes, at least for like desktop and mobile. And I'm sure I'm not the only one here who likes my big screens that I have on my desk, but I found that like you design an app and it looks really good on your desktop, and then I send it to like FieldSnap and they're on their laptop, which is a lot smaller, and so it kind of like changes how I have to think about developing for like widget sizes and things like that.
Absolutely.
So have you all come up with any best practices for that, or like do you do testing on others? Like what, I don't know. I'm just interested to hear.
So yeah, the question is on like laptop size, tablet size, and cell phone size. And I have done some testing, and it's quite frustrating at this point, I feel like. I generally use a blank template to start my experience, which doesn't help me in that aspect. I do think if you use an Experience Builder template to initiate your experience, that some of those settings are already set up for you, which is helpful. When I do my editing and just building out, I'd always make sure I'm on a lap size type screen instead of my big monitor, because that just, I think, helps overall, especially with the sizing of widgets. But it does take a lot of time to set up the different screen sizes, yes. Yes.
So you mentioned arcade, which is becoming more and more of a necessity than a customizable thing. But as far as the experience itself, was that all out of the box, or was that using a developer edition?
This experience is all out of the box, yes. And the only customizations are the arcade pop-ups, but you set those up in WebMap, yeah. Anything else? All right, thank you.